Welcome to Modern Business Life. Real conversations with the leaders, operators, and innovators shaping the way business gets done. No fluff, no filter. Just the stuff you wish people weren't scared to say out loud. Interested in being a guest? Email us at guest@modernbusiness.life. On with the pod.
Welcome to today's pod. Today's guest has built his career at the intersection of ambiguity and enterprise technology, the place where products are new, categories don't fully exist yet, and the rep has to create demand rather than capture it. He was the fourth salesperson at Smartsheet before its IPO. He sold AI, cloud infrastructure, and data platforms at AWS, Scale AI, and Databricks, where he ranked third out of 880 account executives in pipeline generation. And we're going to talk quite a bit about that. He's currently building the data engineering and AI go-to-market practice at SigmaSolve from scratch. And he's been doing it long enough to have strong opinions about what actually works and what the enterprise tech sales world gets wrong. He's based in Chicago, has a political science degree just like me, and has described himself as an ENTJ who will, in his own words, generate more pipeline than anybody you put in front of him. AJ Armendariz, welcome to the pod.
Thanks, Colin. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so let's jump right in. You've done this a few times, and by done this, what I mean is like building go-to-market motions from scratch. The people that listen to this, the audience that we're building is salespeople, it's marketers, and everybody has the same problem. We don't have enough quality leads that turn into quality ops, that turn into quality customers and clients. When you are at SigmaSolve building it, when you're at Smartsheet, Basecap, Hivetech, your entire history, what's the same every time when you build a go-to-market motion? And what are the things that you see are always different?
Yeah, I think in terms of what similarities and themes, there are things that are rinse and repeat, repeatable processes. And so what I mean by that is you have to understand who your target ICP is. You have to become an expert on your target ICP's industries, and then you want to be able to build buyer persona matrices that you can map your solution to. And if you can do that in a repeatable way, you're going to have the ability to drive durable, repeatable revenue.
So with that in mind, when we're, because I agree, like matching up the problem you solve with the person who's the most likely buyer is the best way to not have to be a spammer, right? If you can email 1 million people and the law of large numbers says somebody in there will be a good customer, or you can pick a highly targeted list of 20 or 50 or 100 and have more quality conversations faster. What are your favorite channels right now? Are you a content to drive people to the website guy, or are you a pick up the phone and call? Like what do you like to do to actually generate the pipeline?
Yeah, great question. I think you have to figure out where your target prospect or the contact that you're trying to get in front of, what their preferred channel is. And so if you think about that and work backwards from that, you have to have a multi-channel approach. It's that old 50% of sales or meetings, whatever it is, depending on your sales cycle, come between the 8th and the 12th touch. And so if you're taking that into account, you want to use email marketing, cold calling, LinkedIn, events, and you want to kind of divide and conquer across the different channels and figure out where you're having the most success and where your target contact or prospect is most likely to respond to you, or you're getting actual responses from them.
One of the things when you were at Databricks, to get that high up across 880 AEs, did 300 calls a week. That's a lot of calls, right? And I've said often that I think SDRs, BDRs are the most underpaid people in the sales world because that's a grind, man. That's a lot. How do you stay disciplined at that kind of volume over time without burning out or without the quality, like you just turning into a robot and missing a chance at a good call?
Yeah. Well, today it's a lot easier than it was a couple of years ago, but in terms of not burning out and keeping the quality high, and being able to be highly personalized across the different personas that you might be talking to on a day-to-day basis, is it really comes with preparation. You have to, I think, I'm a big believer that you have to come into a day with your lists already built. And you have to come into the day not only with the list built, but you want to have your 30-second elevator pitch or whatever you want to call it, your 1 or 2 questions or your pattern interrupts that you're going to use on each person that you plan on calling. And you have to have that prepared ahead of time and know it like the back of your hand. And when you do that, and you can do it at the end of each day, or if you make calls Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, you can do it at the end of your Monday or at the end of your Friday, whatever it may be. You have to go into those days, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, with a highly curated, targeted list and something that's going to catch the people that you're calling's attention. It's all about being able to grab their attention. And within that, if you, the more personalized, the more targeted you can be, the easier that becomes. And then eventually, you're going to get really familiar with some of the themes you're seeing across different titles, or maybe some of the themes you're seeing across different verticals or use cases. And it becomes a lot easier.
So with that in mind, when you talk about a targeted list, there's some people that think that intent data works. Like, oh, this person or this company is searching for SEO, ergo, if I market SEO to them, maybe they buy. There's a higher chance. There's some people, and I'm one of them, who looks at triggers. I look for funding announcements. I look for new hires in the department that I'm selling to, because they presumably are trying to make a good first impression or good early impression. What are some of the things that you do to like make a list that's not just pulled from ZoomInfo or pulled from Apollo, that actually makes you go into the week saying, I'm going to be successful with this list because I did the work?
Yeah. Well, with tools, I mean, if to be a successful seller today, you have to be using AI tools, and not just using them. You have to be fluent in them across all of the different AI engagement tools. And so something that I've tried to set myself apart from some of my peers are, I want to know Apollo, I want to know Lemlist, I want to know Clay. Clay is actually almost like a RevOps tool. It's pretty technical. But if you can know those tools and know how they integrate with your CRM, whether it's HubSpot or Salesforce, um, it's going to make it a lot easier to be able to be highly flexible across the different tools and how you're using them. Colin, I'm sorry. What was the what was the questioning?
What? Yeah. So, and I'll clip into that. The question was this: people building lists universally agree that personalization and relevancy are important. Some people use intent data. Some people use triggers. I look for companies that have just been funded or a new hire in the department to which I'm selling. What are some of the things you do to take a list of 1,000 potential prospects out of a data source and narrow it down to those 50 or 100 that you really want to target?
Yeah, so I think it starts with being fluent across all the different tools, whether it's Apollo, Lemlist, all the different AI engagement tools. Clay is another really good one. But then you have to have some sort of AI. You don't have to, but I've found it's the quickest way and the easiest way to scale. You have to have some sort of AI tool on top of it. And what I mean by that is, if you're using like a Perplexity, a Chat GPT, something where you can upload a list of contacts, you can use prompt engineering, and it can spit out information about those contacts. The other thing that I think that is very underused but super valuable is if you actually go to a company's website and you crawl their website for whether it's their careers page, their about page, if they're a PE or VC firm, their portfolio companies page, you can learn a lot about the tools, technologies, data stack, tech stacks, their investment focuses. You can learn a ton about the organization, and you can go back again to those AI tools, the Chat GPTs, the Perplexities, and you can be highly personalized in your messaging based off of what you learn on their website. And it really can set yourself apart. And the better and more efficient you get at doing those things, the more you're going to be able to do it at scale.
Got it. Give me an example. So I'm just going to keep hammering this because it's really fascinating to me, and I know to other people. Give me an example. So I go to a website and I see that they're hiring for data architects. Yeah. And I see that they just raised a Series A. That makes sense that they're hiring because they just got some money. Yeah. Their blog is talking about how 2026 is the age of compliance and security when it comes to your data and your privacy. And my prospect is the CIO who came from Accenture and is now here to help build out this data process. What are some of the things in there, or maybe give me some other examples of like how you actually make that message like really on point?
So one of the things is if you if you have all of the information you just gave me, you can go to an LL, you can use an LLM model, and with prompt engineering, you can say, hey, what are all of the top, what are the top level 2 and level 3 pain points for this CIO in this industry? You type that into, your LLM model. It's going to shoot out 3 or 4 pain point. It's going to shoot out a number of pain points across those, the top level 2, level 3 pain points. Then you can sprinkle something on top of it with, okay, now I'm going to go to that CIO's website and their careers page, and I'm going to look what are the different tools and technologies that they're using. And I'm going to take all of that information and I'm going to ask that LLM model to craft a 7 to 12 touch campaign or sequence that is going to speak to those pain points, how my specific company or solution can solve them, as well as you want to be able to say, hey, and ideally, you can say this. Yeah, I am not a huge fan of a lot of the folks that are not being truthful in their outreach. Your company has to be able to have a solution or be able to solve the problem, but you want to be able to provide examples of where you've already done this, or where you're working with this CIO's competitors or peers, or other similar companies where you've already done these things. And that way you have credibility and you're speaking to these things on a a very day in the life basis, and so they really identify and understand that, hey, this person or Colin understands my pains. They've done it here at company XYZ. I think it makes sense for us to have a conversation.
That makes a lot of sense. I got one, and I'll clip some of this. Oh, I just lost my place. So talking about the pitch, whether it's on a phone call or the sequencing we just put together, pitch at SigmaSolve is AI success is constrained by data.
Yeah,
that's somewhat inverted from a lot of people who've gone to market that says, hey, the more data that you have, the better your AI can be. And those aren't mutually exclusive. But when you go to a CIO that already thinks their data strategy is on point, chief transformation officer that says, hey, AJ, I've already got this handled, and you want to make the case that your success with AI is actually constrained by your data, what do you mean, and how do you get them to lean in and understand what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely. That's really about, first of all, I would say that there's let me address part of it. I think there's very few executives that would confidently say, unless you're the FANG companies and you've been doing AI for 20 years, I think there's very few companies that would actually say our data strategy is, fully baked out. At this point, we're just looking to do optimizations. But if you do talk to a company like that and they say that their data strategy, that they already have it outlined, they're very confident in it, at that point it becomes kind of a data wrangling issue where you're trying to make sure that if you think about it in terms of like each stakeholder, or each different part of the business line of business stakeholders, you want to be able to say, hey, what questions are you not able to answer today that you would like to, and what is the gap that's preventing you from being able to answer those questions? And that's where I think you take something from, or I guess a challenge or pain point from, okay, I have a problem, so okay, now it's outcome focused. There's an element of ROI that we can build in, and this is what, by using my solution, this is what we can do for you. We can help you answer that question. And so you're kind of wrangling all of the different data sources, whatever it may be that's making that gap there. You're able to consolidate the data sources and get that question to a point where it's an outcome based. There's an outcome based solution.
Yeah. When we think about cold outbound and developing pipeline, we pull all of this together, right? You craft the sequence, you get it in front of somebody, they come in, they say they let you make that pitch there. There's some dopamine in that, right? Like you made it happen. And when I've run sales teams in the past, I've worked with reps who really hated the idea of just getting started with trying to generate pipeline. In fact, I've been in a couple companies where I've gone to reps who said, this doesn't work. And I said, if you can make 100 cold calls without scheduling a meeting, I'll give you $100. said that multiple times. I've never had to give anybody $100 because, like, if you can actually get 100 connects, you can get a meeting, even if you're not, like, this law of large numbers. What's a piece of advice you might give somebody who's younger in their career, or somebody who realizes they need to be generating pipeline and they just can't do it? What's one piece of advice, one thing that served you well over the years that you think could help somebody get from 0 to 1?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think that I'm a millennial, and I don't know what all the other generations underneath me are called. There's so many names now, but I think that my generation, and myself included, we have a tendency sometimes to say, hey, that doesn't work because we're seeing something on Instagram or X or whatever their preferred social media outlet is that says cold calling's dead, or no one's opening emails anymore. And I think until you've had a decent sample size, whatever that may be, it's going to be predicated based off of what you're selling, your sales cycle, a bunch of different factors. But each person knows, and if they don't, their manager can likely give them some insight as a seller. You need to be able to have a good sample size to say, hey, that doesn't work. And if you don't have like a very strong, I've tried this, Colin, it doesn't work, then I think you do need to try the different avenues or different ways that sellers have been generating pipeline for years, because I do think cold calling does work. Within that, I think you also have to know what you're really good at. Like, or if you're really good at writing, messaging, or building out sequences that, drive the right activity, and you're getting meetings and you're getting stuff in the pipeline, you're getting to successful outcomes. If you have a repeatable, measurable process, you're going to be able to identify where you're having success and where you're not, and you should be able to say why that is. And that's the whole idea, and why I'm such a big fan of systematic, measurable processes. Because if I can say to you, Colin, look, I've made 500 cold calls over the past 3 weeks to a month. That's a pretty good sample size, and it's just not working. And then maybe it's, Colin, can you help me? Can we do some role play stuff? Because I'm getting connects, but I'm not. They're not translating to meetings. I think that you have to be able to have an open mind. You have to constantly be curious, and there's so much good literature and good resources out there. I think you have to be an athlete about your craft. And if you want to be an enterprise seller, make a lot of money, you have to be a student of the game. Just like you hear about all these athletes spending $2 million a year on maintenance to keep their bodies right for the year. Like you have to approach your craft as a seller in the same way. And if you're not, somebody else will. So, and with AI coming for jobs right now, you don't want to be that person that's left on the sideline. And so I think that if I were to summarize, it's be open to the different strategies, especially if you know someone's background, and someone like yourself that has a pretty extensive background. I'm not going to just respond to you that 100 cold calls doesn't work. Also use the outside resources that you have, and also use systematic, measurable processes where you can actually track what's working and what's not working.
That's good. Just a couple more questions. One, if you were to go back to when you were getting your political science degree, let's rewind the clock. And I say that with a smile on my face because, as I shared, I have the same degree. If you were to go back to the beginning of your actual selling journey, what's one piece of advice that you would give younger AJ that would have made things just a little easier, a little bit quicker along the way?
Yeah. Managing up and managing your brand is really important. I didn't grow up in a my family didn't have sales background. My dad's a mechanical engineer. My mom was in recruiting, but she stopped recruiting pretty early on in my childhood. And so I wasn't having conversations where I understood the importance of being able to manage expectations up, being able to, you know, uh, being able to manage my brand and identify sponsors or folks that would advocate on my behalf. And I think if I would have understood the importance of those things earlier in my career, because it's not just about having success, it's also about, um, how that success is viewed among your peers. I think I would have been, I wish someone would have talked to me about that, and took me aside.
Okay, so when you think about that from a headspace, and you think about AI, like we've been talking about, love your insights about being a student of the game and knowing what tools are out there. What does sales, what does enterprise selling look like in, I'd say 10 years, but what's it look like in 2 years? I mean, things are changing so fast.
I apologize, Colin. You broke up there. What does enterprise selling look like?
What does enterprise selling look like in 5 years? What's it look like? What's the, we're breaking up. 1 2 1 2. Tell me when you get me back.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah, I can hear you. All right.
Okay.
Yeah, let me ask the question from scratch again. So when we think about what sales is going to look like in 10 years, in 5 years, spoken a lot about AI, spoken a lot about being a student of the game. What do you think it looks like to be a salesperson in the next few years?
Yeah, that's where I think it goes back to something I touched on a little earlier in our conversation, where you're going to have to figure out what you're really good at. And so if you're a really big people person, you need to get really, really good at that. You have to be able to understand what your unique selling proposition is. What is it about AJ or Colin that makes me stick out, from the rest of my peers? And you have to figure out how to really, leverage that. And I think combine that with always being curious. And the reason I say that is that the folks that are using AI in their processes, not just what the company's providing you, because I'm sure everyone's company is providing them the latest and greatest AI tools. A lot of them have their own LLM, models and tooling that they're using, but you have to do work outside of that. You have to be one of the, in my opinion, you have to be, to have job security in the next 5 to 10 years. You're going to have to be really good at leveraging the different tools to figure out the big problem statement that I think is important over the next 5 to 10 years is how can I contact or reach out to as many people as possible with the most personalizing messaging as possible, so I can get my company or my solution a seat at the table. Because there's going to be people, there's going to be machines and robots that are really, really good at that. And so I think in order to stick out, it's going to take a combination of figuring out what makes you as an individual, um, stick out from the crowd. What is your unique selling proposition as an individual, as a person? And then how are you, um, using some of these AI tools to be a force multiplier for your process and how you go to market?
Awesome. It's fantastic. If any questions for AJ, I'm sure you can find him on LinkedIn. This has been a gold mine of business development, go to market, AI, the intersection of all of it. AJ Armendariz, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks, Colin. Appreciate the time.